This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Fan.
Bumper to Bumper's Justin Guard, who you're listening to right now at Tom's Watch Bar in Minneapolis. Next Thursday, 8:30 for a KFAN Wolves watch party. We'll have the Timberwolves and Grizzlies live on the big screen. Delicious food, drinks, and your chance to secure exclusive KFAN swag and to qualify for Wolves season finale tickets. Get all the details now. KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Good reminder, look forward to that at Tom's Watch Bar next week. Guardsy here in San Antonio, Westwood 1 Final Four Radio Row. We move away from some basketball discussion. I'm sure Kevin Fallness appreciates it. And we head to New York to talk to Russo Radio, his weekly appearance on Bumper to Bumper. He's tracking the Wild, the Islanders tonight, the game you'll hear right here on the Fan. About an hour and a half from now, he joins us now on the Connecticut Water Systems hotline from the arena. And Russo, I've been reading you all week. I've been out of pocket for like 2 weeks, so I haven't watched every second of every game, really, that's happened with the Twins, the Wild, the Wolves, anybody. But I've certainly taken the temperature of what's been going on with the hockey club. And it feels like if they are going to get one of those coveted 2-point games, they're not going to come much more gift-wrapped than tonight against an Islanders team that I think has lost 6 in a row. They're buried. They're really not in any playoff contention at all. If not now, win, right, to go ahead and get those 2 points that they so desperately need.
Yeah, as Gorg always does at the press meal, he asked me what my prediction was tonight, and I just look at him like, they better win. I mean, it's just that simple. I mean, this is a team that's down and out. They've pretty much fallen out of the playoff race. Definitely some angst inside the organization now with Patrick Waugh going hard after Anthony Duclair last game, calling out his effort viciously, and then they met, and now Anthony's taken some time away from the team. And that could go either way. It could either galvanize the locker room, and they could put out one heck of an effort tonight, or it could absolutely crumble the locker room. So a lot of it will be Sorokin versus Gustafsson tonight. Gustafsson going for his 30th win. This is a team that hasn't beaten the Wild in 6 years, almost 6 years, a 6-game winless streak. John Hynes, I know that sometimes the cynics in all of us roll our eyes when you're winless in 2 on a road trip, and you come into the game with the cliche like if they win it's a decent road trip, but that's the reality. If you come out east for a 3-game road trip and you get 4 out of 6 points, it turns out to be a good one. And look, the Wild had their chances to win the last couple games. They obviously didn't against the Rangers and Devils, at least eked out points. But Calgary right now has an easy schedule. They've got Sharks still twice. They got the Ducks. They beat the Ducks last night. They're on their heels, and St. Louis looks like they'll never lose again. So right now the Wild have to figure out a way to come home with 2 points because, as we know, that Sunday afternoon game against Dallas is going to be hairy.
Gus gets the start tonight. You wondered if this might be a game where Flower would get the net, mostly because they've been riding Gus to the end, right? And you wonder if there might be some fatigue. But I feel like there's probably no other option, right? And fatigue just really can't enter into this thing. So he's just got to be ready to go.
Well, they've kind of done it to themselves here because they've essentially, sidelined Flower here the last, a month and a half. Now to put him into this game in a must-win, it just puts them in a terrible spot. So I don't know if they've handled this right or wrong. They've put themselves in this position by not getting a lot of points here the last month and a half, and really since January 9th being one of the worst teams in the league, that they've got to ride him. You've got no other option but to essentially, because they're not playing Flower right now, to put him in you got no other option but to go with your best. What concerned me the other night is that, and we've seen it lately, is that there seems to be a bad goal a game, and last game there were 2 or 3. including the overtime winner. And so that's my concern is now you fly home tonight. You got a day off tomorrow. You got an afternoon game Sunday. You're going with Gus then. I mean, I don't know. It's concerning me that by the time they even get to the playoffs, if they're fortunate enough to make it, what have you done to this guy? The good news is that they end the season a little earlier than a lot of teams, so they will have some time between their last regular season game and the playoffs. And let's be honest, that might be Flowers' game anyway, the regular season finale, so he will get some rest in the schedule at some point. But clearly they are going to have to ride him here to the finish line.
If you have questions for Russo, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686. Guardsy in for Barreiro, Lavelle at the bottom of the hour. I was in town briefly long enough on Wednesday to listen to Kevin Fallness and Pat Micheletti. They were filling in for the Paul Allen Project. I know Fallness was. Micheletti was in there for an extended time in the 11 o'clock hour. And they had a robust discussion about what's fair in terms of criticism of Matt Boldy recently. And I thought it was interesting. They actually asked Joe Micheletti, Pat's brother, who obviously does the Ranger stuff, about it. And he essentially said, well, when you're Matt Boldy and you're the only guy that can score, other teams are going to notice, and they're not going to let you do that. If they know that it's just as simple as if they can somehow slow down Matt Boldy, Johnny Athletic's favorite Minnesota Wild player, you're going to beat the Wild. So what do you think is fair in terms of criticism for his lack of production here recently?
Well, there's definitely the both sides of it is that, you are the guy. You want to be the guy, so let's, step up and be the guy. But there's no doubt when you look at this Wild roster right now, especially how difficult it is for them to score, you look at him being the biggest threat, and you're going to check him hard. And he's been checked and checked and checked for essentially, this is a long time without Kaprizov now, right? He's been out of the lineup, let's just say, since Christmas, other than those 3 games. And so Boldy is their biggest threat from there, and so it puts a lot of pressure on him. And it's one reason why he's probably throwing away a lot of pucks and things like that. The areas where he frustrates me the most watching him is on the power play, because I feel like a lot of their power plays do die because he just almost sometimes half-heartedly just throws pucks away. And just gets a little too risky, and you just wish that he would play with the puck a little more and draw players to him, and then you create openings, and not that he's got to be a center, or like a Matt Zuccarello, but I just think that he needs to be a little more patient with the puck. I think he's going to the harder areas lately, and obviously he's getting some points lately, but I see both sides of it.
All right, so give us the good news, if there is some, on Kirill Kaprizov. It sounds like imminent is the word that people are using, and you even have a target date on when people might be able to expect him back.
Yeah, that is total conjecture, I will say. It's not like, anybody's giving me the wink, hint, he'll play Wednesday, but it just, to me, makes the most sense, is that he's cleared for contacts, and again, presuming there's no setbacks here in the next week. It sure sounds like he's ahead of Eriksson Ek, not so much maybe health-wise, but it feels like they have a specific timetable on Eriksson Ek based on the broken bone that he had. And we're in week 6 of his 6 to 8 week recovery, and so maybe you just want to hold him out even just to the season finale. As far as Kirill, they've already basically said he's not playing Sunday. Obviously, he's not in New York any longer. Him and Eriksson Ek flew home. So with the next full practice being Tuesday, if they give him a heavy dose of contact that practice, and he's on a regular line, which I have a feeling he will be, I just think that Wednesday's game against San Jose makes sense. Then you bring him on the road against 2 teams, especially Calgary, that you've got to win. Who knew that a month ago that those 2 back-to-back games at Calgary and Vancouver would be so big for all 3 teams? But that's the position the Wild have put themselves in. And so I just think that at least if you give him, the home game against San Jose, I assume he's going to want to play both games, Calgary, Vancouver, but at least one of the 2 in the back-to-backs if you want to sit him out for one, and then the season finale. The concern that you have going into the playoffs, assuming the Wild make it, is just how effective is he going to be? He always talks about how he's a slow starter to begin with, but we're talking about a player that, in the Dallas series 2 years ago, he missed 13 straight games when Logan Stanley fell on top of him and tore his hamstring. And then he came back. They held him out 2 of the final 4 games. He scored the first goal of that series, I think, on a redirection, and then never scored again. And afterwards, when we got him, he basically said how rusty he was just by not playing. So, you cannot simulate real game action in practices. It's just absolutely impossible. And so we'll just see how good he is, but it sure feels like that the light is starting to peak from outside, the tunnel here, and that we're going to see both these guys back at some point. But Kirill, I think, before Eriksson Ek, but we'll see when we get home.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question, was what's reasonable to expect?
Yeah.
Because I think, and we've been waiting so long, obviously the team is waiting so long, but it's not as easy as just hopping up and going, yep, I'm ready, I'm good to go. And so that also even, I don't know, it's going to be interesting how it plays out the next couple of weeks, because the LTIR stuff comes up as well. If he comes back, if he doesn't come back, obviously with Eriksson Ek, that's a whole nother discussion, but everyone's going to be so excited. I mean, Russo, my 6-year-old daughter, every night we turn on the Wild, asks me why Kirill still isn't playing, because that's the only player that she knows. Everybody has the jerseys and she loves it. And I said, he's going to be back at some point. We don't really know. Just because he pops back on Wednesday, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the Kaprizov that was in line for the MVP when we last saw him.
Yeah, without a doubt. And if they play Winnipeg in the first round, the Jets are going to come after him hard, like they always will, like they always do, but even more so now. And especially if, whether it's Dallas or Winnipeg, if the Wild finish in the 8th hole, as we know, if they finish in the 7th hole, they'll play Vegas, and same thing. So that's the other thing, is that he'll be checked hard. They're going to go after him. But let's, to now take the glass half full part of this, which everybody knows that I am. Just having him back on the ice is going to be such a boost. First of all, just what it does to your lineup, it gets everybody in their right positions. I mean, I assume they're going to reunite Zuccarello and Kaprizov and put him in the best position to get pucks to Kirill. And Mats is playing great hockey right now. And it'll, now I think take some pressure off Marco. It'll take some pressure off Matt. And then obviously same thing, getting Eriksson Ek back. I mean, right now, not that Eriksson Ek is an elite face-off guy, but right now their face-offs are just abysmal. I mean, the other night, Marco Rossi lost, 13 of 14. I think Gaudreau lost 16 of 21. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just cannot win games this way unless you got Nathan McKinnon and you're who there. And I bring him up because Colorado is always a bad face-off team. So just having Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov back will just change so much stuff, whether they're full 100% or not, which would be almost impossible. It just changes the complexion, obviously, going into any playoff round.
Last thing for you, Russo. It always fascinates me this time of year. It's hilarious in a way. College teams lose in the playoffs in the NCAAs. They lose. Frozen Four is not until next weekend here. But it's amazing to me every year to watch. A couple of years ago, Brock Faber has a heartbreaking loss in the national title game. From what I'm told, he's inconsolable in the locker room after. Yeah. He's devastated, right? The Gopher hockey team obviously just had another disappointing loss, a week or so ago, up in Fargo. And 10 minutes later, I'm watching the St. Louis Blues social media team, and Jimmy Snuggerud's getting his rookie lap. That's got to be, it's the weirdest thing. It's got to be kind of the weirdest thing to cover and just go, 10 minutes ago, you guys were devastated, and then you were on a plane, and now you're here, and by the way, you're in the NHL now.
Yeah, and you wouldn't believe it, but I sat down with Faber this morning to talk about exactly that.
Oh, really? That's funny.
I'm doing a big story Monday on just what this will be like for Zeev when he comes here for that finale. And really, Brock brought up a bunch of stuff. Is that the hockey part's the easiest? The hardest part is you're still this young kid that hasn't been around the grind all year of this team, and now suddenly you are parachuted into an NHL locker room, and you're dubbed this big hotshot rookie that everybody expects. And then what makes it even more awkward in Brock's case is that he pulled, by him playing in the playoffs, a veteran like, say, Alex Goligoski is suddenly out, who's been there all year and things like that. And he goes, you don't realize how uncomfortable it is at the very beginning for that young rookie. And so, he was basically, and the reason why I'm writing is what Zeev is going to experience when he gets here. And so obviously, as long as the Wild's playoff positioning is man, I hope it is, confirmed by that season finale, I think Zeev gets the season finale and plays, because I would guarantee you the Wild are going to want to play Chisholm and Zeev and get Spurgeon and Brodin a rest going into the playoffs. But then when the playoffs start, that's a different story. Brock Faber was this lockdown, first of all, 2 years older than Zeev, this lockdown defenseman, coming, defensively sound, mature, captain material, coming right out of University of Minnesota. Zeev is an offensive defenseman, more undersized, more raw, much younger. It's going to be very different and very difficult for John Hines to just all of a sudden pull somebody out of the lineup and throw him in.
Right.
So I don't think as long as they are healthy, I don't think at the beginning of the playoffs, Zeev would start the playoffs. Now, if all of a sudden they have injuries or the power play stinks or they want to change up things, then maybe you go with them. But I think this is going to be a different story. And also, John Merrill and Zach Bogosian, they have very unique roles on this team. And that's going to be valued in the playoffs. So I think at the very beginning, we at least see Merrill and Bogosian, and then we'll see what Zeev is. But it is, to your point, it is a strange thing. We saw that with Ryan Leonard making his debut the other day. It's crazy. Gabe Perreault, we were just in New York, and the same thing. It's a weird thing in the NHL. Sometimes it's really unbelievable, like you watch Faber. Sometimes it's unbelievable, like you watch Cale Makar. But sometimes it can get overwhelming for somebody that's not ready to go into that playoff spot.
Well, and that's the funny part is, like, I'm at the Final Four here in San Antonio, and Cooper Flagg, he's going to be the number one pick probably in the draft, plays for Duke. I just can't imagine him playing on Monday night, and then Wednesday he's in the lineup for the Pistons. Yeah. That's the equivalent of it. And what's even funnier on the hockey side of it, because it's not just a straight up, these guys have been drafted for years and years and years. They're not just coming up in the NHL. Like, Faber played in the playoffs. I mean, these guys can play like legitimate roles. Yeah. It's just I know.
I think Makar came, I think, almost in the second round, if I'm not mistaken. I mean,
it's funny,
and he was special right off the hop. It's. Some guys, they're just mature. I mean, Faber, the one thing Faber pointed out, too, to me today, and he reminded me, is that he was not the Brock Faber then that he is, that he is now.
Sure.
Brock Faber last year was playing 30 minutes a night, like every single night. In the playoffs that year, he reminded me he was not going out there against the Rupe Hintzes and the Jason Robertsons. And
sure.
He was playing sheltered minutes on the third pair. And so, because I think he's seen a gazillion times how many times I've written that in his 8 games, regular season playoffs, he wasn't on the ice for a goal against, but he also was being pretty humble and real and honest today, where he kind of reminded me, like, look, I was going out against, pretty safe pairings, not getting defensive zone draws against the Stars, things like that. But, that's Brock, though. He's always humble. And
it's the Minnesotan in him. It's the Maple Grove in him.
It is. Yeah.
It's just a nice upbringing in Minnesota. We'll look forward to reading that, Russo. Thanks for making the time today. Thanks to Kevin Fallness for getting you set up in the broadcast booth.
Thanks to Mike, the engineer here, who's just a true pro. He was here hours before Fallness would have even stepped inside.
Isn't that funny how whenever we ask Fallness for his room, it's like, I don't know if I'll be back from my walk. I'm not sure. But in New York,
the other thing here is
Mike's got it lined up.
Yeah, and Mike doesn't need to have 16 candles around lit to make it look good, make it smell good.
It just smells good up there.
Yeah, it's just naturally smells good up here.
Well, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Kevin Fallness, and thank you, Mike Russo. Thanks, buddy.
Yep, see it.
That's Russo Radio on the Connecticut Water Systems Hotline. We've got Lavelle about 10 minutes from now. I've got a surprise for Lavelle as well. Didn't mean to rhyme there. When we come back, a quick NBA nugget, Ja Morant related. Might touch on a Twins thing or two. Garzi here at the Final Four.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, is, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
And
Comedian and podcaster Tom Segura is hitting the road. Catch him when he brings the Come Together Tour to the XL Energy Center Friday, April 18th. Don't miss out on this night of hilarious comedy. Enter for your chance to win a pair of tickets at KFAN.com, keyword calendar. That's KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Final 45 minutes or so from San Antonio. Guardsy here, Westwood One Radio Row. Appreciate them sending this down. Appreciate their partners like Ego. Tools that deliver, exceed the power and performance of gas without the noise, fuss, and fumes. For any outdoor challenge, count on Ego Tools to deliver the power, performance, and innovation you need. Ego. Power beyond belief. We'll have Lavelle Neall III about 5 minutes from now. I had to double check this because you get a little out of touch when you are on the road and you don't have your normal routine of how you prepare for stuff and how you read and your different day-to-day things. And I had to read that this Ja Morant story was real from last night because it was a couple of nights ago that he and I think another player got in trouble. Buddy Hield, I think it was, from Golden State, got in trouble for basically, flashing, the gun sign at each other after they made some shots. And I agreed with the people then that thought it was a stretch to think that it was anything too over the top or too crazy or too comparable to what he was suspended for within the last year, brandishing an actual weapon multiple times in multiple scenarios. He missed basically like 50 games. It was 25 games. It was crazy. He was suspended twice in 2023 with actual weapons. So is it the smartest thing in the world? No, it's not. Was it the worst thing in the world? It wasn't. But what really bothers me now is I had to look this up again a second time. After being warned by the NBA that they don't want him to do it anymore, he did it last night. It makes no sense. It's the second time in a week that he's done it after being warned. So it just goes back to, does he understand? Does he care? Does he get it? It seems like he doesn't. Are these things individually the worst? They're not. But in totality, when you think about his history, when you think about the fact he's already missed significant time, it makes no sense to me. By the way, with Memphis grinding their way to a postseason spot as well, the Wolves play them, I think, next Thursday in Memphis. Maybe next Friday. That's the Tom's Watch Bar appearance that I'm doing. Love for you to join me downtown. But they've been plummeting here and free falling. They've been a top 4 seed almost all year. They won the other night. I think they won last night. And now they're just, scratching and clawing and try to stay in the top 6. And he's got this stuff going on again after he'd been warned. I heard Dan Patrick say it, and he's right. He's too talented. He's too good of a player and too fun to watch. You go back to even the playoff series against the Wolves a couple of years ago when they were the 2 seed back then. I worry that these things are going to keep piling up on him and from him, that we're going to be looking up in 3 or 4 years and saying, it's a shame what happened to Ja Morant, because the potential was there and he was such a fun player and had the potential in the conversation that never ends about who could be the next face of the league. 3 years ago, Ja Morant was front and center in that. What he did with Memphis, how he had them going, they were an electric team. And now it's just, kind of going the wrong way. And this week is the latest example of it. It would just be a shame. But I don't know if he's ever going to learn. If literally, again, he's told by the NBA yesterday or 2 days ago, we'd rather you not do that. Certainly with your past performances here and the fact that we've already had to suspend you for real weapons, probably not the best look. And he takes that message, he ingests that message, and he does it again later that night. It's a shame. So he's been fined $75,000 for brandishing of the fake weapons. Seems like a waste to me. Lavelle Neall III will make his weekly appearance when we come back.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
Minneapolis, get ready for Bill Murray and his Blood Brothers. Join them on April 10th, the Orpheum Theater, for an epic night of music and fun. Grab your tickets now, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Winding down here from San Antonio, Guardsy at Radio Row for the men's Final Four. You'll hear the games right here on the Fans Saturday and Monday. A ton of basketball guests. All of it will be podcastable. We've also got kind of a best of the Final Four in Dan Barreiro's Sunday sermon spot on Sunday. Dan will be back on Monday. We'll all be back together again. It's been a week and a half, I think, since we've done a show together. Lavelle E. Neall III is on the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. He is brought to you by Allery's Bar and Barbecue in downtown St. Paul, your home for free parking and wild shuttles, and he joins us now. How are you, Wobbs?
I'm doing great, man. How are things down in San Antonio?
Things are great. And I want to start with a present from San Antonio for you. I was glad. Your favorite basketball coach, or the coach of your favorite basketball team, is who?
Brad Underwood.
Brad Underwood, University of Illinois. You've struck up a little bit of a friendship with Coach Underwood, right? You've had him over to your sneaky cigar spot. We were talking a little bit about that. Is all that accurate?
That is accurate.
Well, that's where I think the present comes in, because I talked to Brad Underwood today. He was here for Coaches versus Cancer. He's now the chairperson. He's basically the president of the organization, took over for former Illini coach Lon Kruger. And I wanted to present this to you and get your reaction to it. All right, I can't let you go also.
All right,
talking about a guy who's on our show a little bit after you today, Lavelle E. Neall, who's the biggest Illinois fan that I know. Star Tribune columnist, has been a beat writer, went to Illinois for a few years and then got out, went to UIC, I think is where he wrapped up. But when you got hired at Illinois, I want this for the record for you, the next time you see him in town.
Hello?
I texted him and said, dude, you're on. I've talked to this guy from Stephen F. Austin, talked to him at Oklahoma State. The guy wins. You're in such good shape. And I want you to know, he was questioning my integrity as a basketball analyst. He said, Brad Underwood, really? You think so? I go, you're going to win, bro. You're going to win fast. It took him a while, but I think he's on your side now. But I want you to know it wasn't that way from the jump. So please bring that up the next time you see him.
The next time we're at the cigar bar in Minneapolis, I will remind him of the fact that he had doubt. And he's now gone from one of my favorite reporters to a guy that I'll question whether I speak to again.
Yeah. Right?
Unless we're in the cigar bar.
Yeah, I was going to say outside. Yeah, well, I'm sure he's waiting for you at the top of the steps at Williams Arena every time you come up.
He is, we've had some great conversations, but now he was in doubt. You might want to put him in the portal. Put him in the portal. And
unlike your players, like you say, they're always family, no matter what, which is a great line and great approach. Yeah. It doesn't apply to Lavelle.
Well, I think if he's in the portal, he's probably not going to get much. I think he's one of the guys that could be a casualty of the portal.
All right, well, good luck, Wobbs. You're going to hear this later today at 5:30. But in fairness, he loves the Illini. He loves what you're doing.
He's the best. He's the best. We've had a lot of fun.
Good. I love it. All right, could you hear that, Wobbs?
I caught the second half of that, and I can't wait to listen to it back when it's posted online to hear all of it. But the part I heard was wonderful.
That if you went to the portal, you would not come out with much? Did you like that part?
Yeah, I think I'll probably get offered, $12 by the Belleville News Democrat or something.
Yeah. Well, I basically ratted you out for not being on board with the hire at the beginning and said I was trying to pump his tires and you weren't completely on board, and he took offense to that and thought, yeah, so it might be the last time you see him at the cigar bar, I guess, is the moral of the story.
First of all, I didn't know much about him at the time, so I was kind of trying to take your word for it, although you were pretty adamant that he was going to be a good hire. I'm sure that if I hand him a cigar, he's not going to turn it down. So I'm not worried about that.
No, you're beloved. He loves you. But it was fun. It's fun to talk to random people about you, and so that was you helped me make a nice connection with the Illinois head coach. So for that, I appreciate it.
And I hope you have a different opinion of me now. Actually, now that you've had a third person come in and tout my greatness.
Exactly right. All right. What's the moral of the first week of the Twins season?
Moral is that they don't look good right now. The offense is a little dysfunctional, and the pitching hasn't been as crisp as we expected it to be. I feel like this is similar to last year. They got off to a 7-13 start. Everybody was trashing the team. Common and Tennessee were ripping the Twins furiously. And then they won 12 straight. And then they took control of the Central for most of the season. And then their attitudes changed. Well, now they got to win the series. But then the collapse came. So I'm not saying they're following the same footsteps as last year. But in terms of you don't want to underreact. You don't want to overreact. But in terms of a 7-game sample size, we got to see how this thing plays out and see what the team looks like when Buxton starts hitting and Correa starts hitting. And we can see a little more consistent offensive production.
What was the vibe like at the home opener?
The fans who were there were fired up. They were happy that a new season had started. There were a bunch of kids out at the game. I don't know if they were playing hooky from school. I know Hopkins School District, I think, was on spring break, and maybe a couple others that may have played into it. But people were having a good time. They were festive. I ran into people afterwards, went to the game, had a few beverages, and had a good time. They were bummed out that the Twins lost, But baseball's back, man. It's a celebration of a new season. And it wasn't a sellout. They announced the 36,000. I was looking for any sign of a member of the Polat family, and I never saw one. I'm sure they probably were there in the suite, but they were not on the field before the game. I did not catch them walking through the concourse. Sometimes you can. And I didn't see them on suite level, so I don't know where they were, because this could be their last home opener at Target Field, unless they want to come as spectators. So I was looking for that. But no, it was a cool vibe. The pregame, the player introductions, probably wasn't enthusiastic given how the season ended, But once the game started, it was like a normal game. I mean, they started booing Altuve as his strikeouts accumulated, so they haven't forgotten the trash can controversy. So, and once the 7th inning arrived, people started leaving because it was too cold and the Twins were losing. It just seemed like a regular game to me.
Are you surprised that it wasn't a sellout?
No, I'm not. Like I said, I don't know if the Polats really understand what they did when they didn't raise the payroll after the 2023 season.
That was going to be my next question. But go ahead.
The 2023. I think they set the seeds of apathy among some members of the fan base, and I think that, and especially with how the way last year wound up with them blowing a chance at the playoffs in the last week of the regular season, and then immediately announcing that everybody was coming back, but they were going to just hold the payroll where it was. I think it's just a gut punch to some fans who wanted to see the franchise take another step and then an investment in that step. And I totally get that. So no, I'm not surprised that it was not a sellout.
That was going to be my next question. How do you feel? How do you think the players and Rocco and the staff? Because to me, it's always been like a two-pronged thing, right? Like, I feel bad for the players in a way. They obviously have to produce. The ones that are there, they have to be healthy. They have to play. They're professionals. They have an obligation to try to win games. But they're also they're on the front lines for this battle that they have nothing to do with. Rocco Baldelli has nothing to do with the Polats, spending or not spending. Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, all those guys, they don't have, anything. They don't have any say. They're the ones, unfortunately, that have to go out in the trenches and almost answer for decisions that the front office and ownership have made. How do you were down in Fort Myers, like, are they aware of the kind of the narrative around the squad? And like you said, the apathy about it. And that's where the tough start, Wobbs, is almost a death nail times 2 for them, because if any group needed a good start to kind of shift the narrative to something else more positive, it was this group, and obviously that hasn't happened yet.
Well, that's what I wrote last Sunday in my 3-2 pitch, that they really needed to win to kind of break off the scar tissue that remains from last year and the year before. The announcement that the club, the owners were exploring a sale, only for one guy, Ishbia, to pivot to the White Sox. And now, there was a report that there was an offer that wasn't accepted. And so it's kind of in limbo. It's kind of in soap opera mode. And through all that, winning would change the whole attitude, the whole atmosphere, and remove a little bit of the dark cloud that's kind of hanging over the franchise. And I was down at spring training, and I'm pretty sure that if you ask players and staff on the record, they're going to say, we just kind of focus on what's on the field and what's in front of us. I got to focus on hitting this pitch and executing and playing for my teammates and playing for the fans and trying to win games. But, I had a couple conversations when I was down there with some people in uniform, and they were like, I really hope we get off to a good start, just to get the fans involved and get them fired up and optimistic. They're not totally tone deaf to what's going on with the franchise. But, they don't want to make an issue either of it in the papers or in the media either. So they're going to articulate their desire to try to win as many games as possible and get people fired up about Twins baseball. So I get that approach. So, yeah, it's starting 2-5 certainly didn't help. They can go 5-2 quickly next week and kind of change things around. And the TV thing, I don't know how they've taken a hit, revenue rise from television the last couple of years, and I think the kerfuffle last year over Comcast Xfinity led to that a little bit of a out of sight, out of mind type of attitude.
For sure,
towards
it did.
the team. And they've got to watch out for that. So, yeah, they're going to have to recover some of their disgruntled fan base, and winning it's going to be a big key to that.
Lavelle E. Neal III, presented by Allery's Bar and Barbecue, downtown St. Paul, joins Bumper to Bumper every Friday right around 5:30. If you're looking for a silver lining, one of your favorite phrases of all time when it comes to Twins baseball, the fact that, Buxton's played in every game, and it seems like he's in a really good place health-wise. I'm sure that was a topic of conversation when you were down in Fort Myers. I know Rocco spent a lot of time when he was in with Barreiro before spring training in the Twins Fest era when he came in studio for an hour and change, which is always awesome. Talked about how he was feeling, how the offseason he was going through, really for a lot of the injured guys, but certainly Buck is the one that comes to top of mind for everybody. What have we learned about the plan for him this year after playing so many games a year ago, and just where he is health-wise, because that's always going to be a huge topic of conversation around the center fielder?
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's pleased that he's on the field and he's played in every game so far this year. They felt really good about where Buck was at by the end of camp. He came in, he reported to camp saying, I finally had a regular offseason. I didn't have to rehab anything. I didn't have to watch anything. I didn't have to have anything checked out. I was able to have a regular progression towards spring training in terms of my workout. And he was really happy with where he was at. And look, he's got the wheels. We saw him beat out 2 infield hits yesterday. We haven't seen the pop in the bat yet. Hopefully that can become evident here in the coming games. And I'm sure Rocco's not going to take too much advantage of this and just run him out there until he begs to come off the field. I'm sure there's going to be plans to give him a day off here and there. That's why Harrison Bader is here to be a capable center field backup to Buxton. The guy they tried last year as a center field backup, Manuel Margot, really wasn't that guy. As it turned out, he's better in left. So they had to kind of pivot to a little bit of Willie Castro and a little bit of Austin Martin. They don't have to do that now. They have a guy, Bader, who has won a Gold Glove defensively, to give Buxton either a half day off if he could play the field and Buxton can DH, or a full day off when it's appropriate. Same thing for Carlos Correa, too. He's not going to become Iron Man either. They're going to watch both these guys because those are the two guys in the lineup most capable of having a 5 WAR season or above. And for the Twins to bounce back and be more relevant than they were a year ago, those two guys have to be operating at the best of their abilities. And so it's going to be kind of a situation where they're going to play a stretch of games and get a couple games off and then play another stretch of games. I'm sure Rocco's got a plan to to try to keep them on the field as much as they can without wearing them out. Or, if they got, then look, during the season, there's going to be bumps and bruises. There's going to be aches and pains. And Rocco's got to manage through that too. Do I need to push that now? His ankle's a little sore. Maybe I'll just set him out for a day or two and bring him back here. So, well, fortunately, Rocco's had a lot of experience having to manage through injury.
No kidding. Yeah, and he even said, I thought it was interesting, he felt like, because Dan, I'm sure you heard about it if you didn't hear it, he said he identifies with Byron Buxton because of some of the things that he went through as a player, where your body just doesn't cooperate. I thought that was an interesting thing to say. You mentioned an analytic, maybe one of the most old school ones, the WAR analytic. I went on a little bit of a mini rant yesterday, Lavelle, and I know you wrote about analytics as it pertains to what makes an ace pitcher earlier in this week, now that we have a number for everything. And my mini rant had to do with a story that I heard Common talking about on Wednesday that was written by Dan Hayes from The Athletic. And I read Aaron Gleeman today as well. And I read you, and I read Bobby Nightingale, and I read Phil Miller, and I read all of you guys. And the rant was, by the time Common was done reading the story, it had to do with bad luck for the Twins offense in the first couple of weeks here, or first week or so of the season. And every sentence had how hard a ball was hit, the batting average probability, balls in play bit, and it was like 3 paragraphs with 9 stats included in the paragraph. And I had a headache by the end of it, Lavelle, I'm not going to lie. I haven't gotten to your analytics story on the pitcher piece of it, but is that how we're going to do every gamer now? Is that how baseball is now? I know everything's been reduced to a number. Is that how we just have to describe every game with exit velocity and launch angle and all of this? Because if it is, I think I'm getting older because I got really cranky about it.
We all are getting older. And I used WAR for my pitching story, but I didn't get too much deeper. I could have used FIP or ERA plus. I've gotten deeper into some other stats, but I tried to stay out of that. And as a newspaper, Minnesota Star Tribune type newspaper, not like The Athletic, online publication, in which long-form writing is encouraged, so you can go down all the rabbit holes you want to go down. We still have a finite amount of space to fill, and we also don't want to talk over the reader's head and throw numbers and words at them that they're going to have to, have a reference website next to them to look up and to try to figure out what these stats mean. So there'll be times where we'll have like an analytical story, but yeah, every year, man. Every year, there's new stats. I think the new stat this year is batter's box placement, where a hitter is standing inches, and how that leads to the ability to get to different parts of hit the ball to different parts of the field. It's always gonna be something new every year, man. Because MLB.com has like a fleet of guys, trying to come up with the next great stat to try to describe the game. Yeah, we are getting older. The modern Triple Crown in pitching is not wins, strikeouts, and ERA. It's other stuff, So that's where we're headed. The modern Triple Crown for hitting is now batting average, slugging percentage, and on-base plus slugging percentage, and stuff like that. So you can't stop progress, man. You can't slow down technology. So,
I'll argue, though, is this progress? Is this progress? That's what I argued. And because the point of the story is they've had a million balls that were hit really hard, and then whoever they were playing, their 4 balls were not hit hard at all, but they somehow found the spot, and it was just one of those days. And my argument yesterday was, well, that's happened forever, right? We've talked about it forever. Like, wow, he hit that ball really hard. I didn't need to know that he hit it 98.7 miles an hour off the bat. And you look up, and you would always tell me the baseball season, what is it, 60 games you win, 60 games you lose, and it's, 140, whatever your math is. At the end of the season, look up.
54.
There you go. Thank you. You're going to have stretches where you hit the ball really well and you have bad luck. Then you're going to have other stretches where you don't hit the ball very well and somehow the ball finds empty blades of grass and you get a hit that maybe you didn't deserve. You look up at the end of the year, your batting average is 310, your on-base percentage is 400, and that's your season. I feel like now every game we're trying to identify, well, was it a lucky hit? Was it bad luck that he got an out? Was it a good 0 for 4? Was it a bad 0 for 4? And now we just have every day a number attached to it. It just, to me, it has taken the enjoyment of just watching the ball game, having to know every single thing about what happened numerically.
Yeah, I think it's still room for you to absorb the game the way you want to absorb it. if you want to go down rabbit holes, you can get on your computer and look up every stat that's out there for your own information, or you could choose to ignore it and try to avoid it. And our goal is to try to be informative, be up to date, and hit with the jive. But at the same time, I don't want to beat you over the head with intricate stats all the time. I want to talk about players who are great and players who aren't, and maybe tell good stories, human interest stuff, and try to round out coverage that way. But yeah, I get where you're headed, but I think you do have some say-so in how you can
you're right.
Absorb and synthesize information in front of you.
You're right. Yeah, and if I see one or more numbers in one paragraph, I guess I'll just click through and read something else. I guess that's what I'll do. In our last couple of minutes, let's talk about the Wolves. They win last night and drop in the standings. They're now the 7th seed in the Western Conference. Memphis won last night. Ja Morant got fined because after being warned about doing a gun symbol, he did it again. I don't quite understand that, Lavelle. I had a little mini rant about that before you joined, but how do you feel about the Wolves' position at the moment, as they've now got 5 games left, and it's an absolute bloodbath between number 5 and number 8 in the Western Conference playoffs? Yeah,
Ja Morant's an idiot, and his father's a showboat. I mean, it's just it's just sad when someone's warning you not to do something, you just go out and do it. I'm just going to get into trouble.
Well, I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt the other night when he did it. I was with Stephen A. and some others that said, all right, we're reaching a little bit. Is it the best thing in the world? It obviously isn't, but is it the end of the world? Do we need to be investigating this? Probably not. But then he's warned about it, and what does he do with that info, Lavelle? He does it again. That just shows me he doesn't get it, and that's the sad part about it, because Correct. I said it earlier, he was in the running to take this league over a little bit when the old heads finally retire, and I just worry he's going to waste this.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm worried about that as well. So, Anthony Edwards too. He's got some things to tighten up on if he sure. wants to take that mantle as well. So, but in terms of how this season's ending, what's the phrase from Samuel L. Jackson and Snakes on the Plane? Hold on to your butts. Get ready for this last week and a half of the NBA season, because I believe there's 5 or 6 teams separated by 2 games now in the West.
Yeah. Right.
There's going to be some jockeying up and down, man. And every game's going to be dripping with drama, interest, and intrigue because the Wolves have a chance to get out of the play-in game, and they also have a chance to cement a play-in game. And so, and there's teams that are just, in the West that could drop all the way down to South. It's going to be pretty nutty here. The team that slumps first will end up the worst. And that's what you want to avoid going over the final games of the regular season.
Yeah, to your point, the Nuggets are the 3 seed right now. They are 2.5 games ahead of the 8 seed LA Clippers. Now, there's all those teams that are in between, obviously the Wolves, Grizzlies, Warriors, Lakers. But it's just hilarious to me that the Wolves can win last night and drop a spot. They were in the 6 before they played the game against the Nets. You look at the schedule, and I said it yesterday, I said it again today. We've been saying this all year, unfortunately. The Wolves' schedule the last 5 now is very forgiving. They've got Philly in there. They've got Utah in there. They've got another game with Brooklyn. Their quote-unquote tough games are a Milwaukee team on the road and then this Memphis club. But there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to go 4-1 or even 5-0 down the stretch if they're serious about it. And the problem is we've said that all season long, haven't we? That if they just take care of the teams they're supposed to beat, they're going to be in a good position, and they haven't shown that they can do that for an extended stretch.
Well, as long as they have to play Indiana anytime soon, they're going to be okay. But I will say this, during the second half of the season, they've kind of righted the ship a little bit. They've played better basketball. Julius Randle has been incorporated. I love the dog and Dante DiVincenzo. I think he adds that to the team. And I like their chances of getting out of the hole there and avoiding a play-in game. They just have to overall play like they have the last month or so. Where they're getting contributions from multiple people, and Mike Conley's playing 3 years younger than he is, and DiVincenzo's making big shots, and Randall's being a facilitator as well as a scorer, and Nasri doing Nasri things. It's there for them to take, and they have the players to take it, and they've been playing well enough to take it. So I think we should expect them to go at least 3-2, if not 4-1, or maybe in your case 5 rip.
And you named all those players. You didn't name the guy that I started the show with, the one that we never talk about anymore, unless it's in a negative way. Rudy's been phenomenal the last 5 games. I mean, Rudy, he's defensively has been good. The rebounding numbers have been off the charts. He's always going to fumble a couple of passes. It's not always going to be pretty if he gets it in the lane. We don't know exactly what he's going to do. If he's not dunking it, it's 50-50 whether the ball's going in. But Chris Finch said it last year at this point. I love the quote, and I feel like that's what he's doing now. Rudy prevents us from losing games because of how he plays defensively. Like other games where things are getting a little leaky or they're not shooting the ball like they should, Rudy's defense and rebounding allows them to kind of hang around from time to time. And I wanted to make sure it's a jump today, Lavelle, that I brought it up because I think he's been outstanding this last stretch of games, and they're going to need him to be, this final week and change.
Yeah, with them getting offensive contributions from some other people, and then tip of the cap to Jake Medallions for being a little more offensive minded here in recent weeks as well. Rudy could be Rudy, rim protector, set screens, roll to the basket, and just tip alley-oops in for dunks and get 18 points that way, and then pull down 20 boards like he's done. So you are exactly right. He's given the Wolves the best version of himself. When his best is required. I just combined 2 witty phrases there and brought some KOC-ness into this conversation.
I was going to say, that's a little KOC flavor on the week of the owners' meetings. Thanks, Wobbs. Appreciate you making the time as always. I'm glad Brad Underwood and you got a chance to connect here through me, and we will see you back in the Twin Cities.
That was a nice surprise. I'm going to have to go back and listen to it again.
Love it. Thanks, Wobbs.
Later.
Lavelle Neall III, thanks to Allery's Bar and Barbecue in downtown St. Paul, your home for free parking and wild shuttles. We will put a wrap on the Radio Row experience in San Antonio, Davie, when we come back.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
It's brought to you by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975. Guards in for Barreiro for a final 5 minutes here. We're out early because the Wild take on the Islanders tonight. Pre-game at 6:15, puck drop at 6:30. I loved what Russo Radio said about an hour ago on the show. I said, from afar, Russo, it looks like one of these coveted 2-point game opportunities that the Wild desperately need. He wrote a big story about how they're grinding away into the postseason, trying to find points wherever they can find them. There's not many opportunities that are more gift-wrapped for this one. I don't want to set it up in Dan Barreiro-like fashion and call it loser-proof, but the Islanders are a mess. There's turmoil in the organization. They've lost 6 in a row. They have really nothing to play for except some type of professional pride. I know the Wild haven't been great lately. They're battling their own demons, but you got to find a way to get 2, and that journey begins 10 minutes from now with the pregame show. We've been here the last couple of days. I've been in for Dan the last couple of days from Radio Row, thanks to Westwood One and their great partners like Cummins. The 2027 X15 engine from Cummins features better fuel efficiency, immense power, and it's backed by 25-plus years of experience. The 2027 X15 is built to rise above the challenges of tomorrow. The X15, forever rising. We appreciate all their sponsors helping us get down here. That includes Werner Ladder. Talked about them a little bit earlier in the show, but I love coming down here. I love doing these Final Fours. I love talking to our friends like Matt Margenthaler, the Minnesota State Mankato coach. Love talking to Johnny Tower today, the St. Thomas coach, and then the usual cast of thousands. Andy Katz, Robbie Hummel, Sean Farnham joined us today, PJ Carlissimo. It was a lot of basketball talk. It's a basketball-intensive couple of days. So if you're not into college hoops, if you're not into the Big Ten, might not be for you, but that's why we're grateful that Chris Hine jumped in to help us with Wolves stuff yesterday. Lavelle Neall III, obviously, with his weekly appearance, and then Russo Radio at 5 earlier today. We appreciate all the regulars still making time for us. All of it will be podcastable. Check out the Barreiro channel of your iHeartRadio app. Bunch of stuff we couldn't use, and a lot of stuff you'll hear on Sunday sermons as well from 9 to 11. All the games will be heard on the Fan or the Plus on Saturday or Monday. Don't sleep on the women's Final Four, by the way. I did want to say, I'm cheering for Paige Beckers. I'm cheering for UConn. I know a lot's been written about her in the Twin Cities this week, but people do forget that before there was Caitlin Clark, there was Paige Beckers. She was the number one recruit in that class. Gino Ariema got a lot of crap the last few years for not recruiting Caitlin Clark. Part of the reason is because Paige Beckers was in the same class, and she was the number one recruit in that class. And she was the National Player of the Year as a freshman. As a freshman was the National Player of the Year, and she has battled a ridiculous amount of injuries, and it's been awesome to see her get back to the Final Four again, have ridiculous games in the tournament, going over 40 and going over 30, I think, the next game in the Elite Eight. She's been spectacular, and if anybody deserves a national championship, it's hard to say anybody deserves one, but if anybody does, to me, it's the kid from Hopkins. She's had a great career, and looking forward to watching the women's side of the Final Four as well down in Tampa. But go Paige Beckers. Hopefully would be a nice topper to a great career, and a career that has not been without some pretty severe adversity when it comes to the injuries. The headline for me, Brett Blakemore, in our final couple of minutes here from Radio Row, I'm in the wrong spot to tell people it's time to rebuild Williams Arena. Did you catch that the last couple of days?
I did. Multiple people just saying, leave it alone.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, universally. And it seems like, with our conversation with Mark Coyle yesterday, if you're worried about the barn going away, you don't have to be anytime soon. It's clearly not on the front burner like it may have been even as recently as a year ago. A year ago when they got the engineering firm involved and they wanted to see what it would cost to build a new arena, what it would cost to renovate, they want all the information, and then they'll make a decision. I mean, Coyle straight up said that's been put on pause, any major decisions about Williams Arena, because they have this revenue sharing stuff that they've got to figure out. But it does seem, with the stuff that he said about Williams Arena being a historic venue, with what Nico has said about the barn, and then, I mean, I don't know if Mark Coyle got to Andy Katz, if he got to Sean Farnham, if he got to Robbie Hummel, but every single person I talked to today, even a couple of coaches you didn't hear from that have spent time in the Big Ten or are familiar with the Big Ten that have been to Williams Arena, it was unanimous. So I'm in the wrong town. My take is not aging well here, that they do need to do something dramatic or drastic. Everybody agrees you have to update it. If you're going to keep it, you have to do something different to make it a little bit more modern. But my dream of a new arena, I'm in the wrong spot. I'm in the wrong spot, San Antonio Davies.
Do the coaches have to use the troughs?
They don't, I don't think. I think they have their own bathrooms.
Well, that explains that.
And they usually have their own food, too. They don't have to wait in line. And then they usually have their own office downstairs where they can eat their food and things like that. So you're right. They have a different vibe. They have a different experience than the rest of us. But that was funny to me, is I've been, for 2, 3, 4 years, I've been saying it's time to do something with the barn. And every single person here just trampled right over me. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of texts and DMs about that from people that have been fighting for the barn. That, I don't know, it was not a popular opinion. And I didn't even bring it up half the time, if you noticed, in any of the interviews. People just volunteered it to me. Never mess with the barn, never touch the barn, don't do anything with the barn, leave the barn. So I guess we're keeping the barn. I guess that's the main headline and the lesson from San Antonio. Right?
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.